If we were given a chance to go back in time and remake our lives with the knowledge we have right now, I think most of us would take it, because that's the reality of regret. And that's the reality of life. The protagonist of this anime, namely Kyouya Hashiba, was also going through a period of extreme regret and depression. He got fired from his job and was left with no choice but to move back home with his parents. Even after he tried so hard and got so far, in the end, it didn't even matter. Or did it? He definitely regrets his decision to not go for an arts college in the first place. It feels as if he's wasted the past 10 years of his life. One night he reads another rejection email. The man comes across a woman staring at a river. He wonders if she's gonna commit die and jumps off to help, but looks like she was just adjusting her heels. Anyways, thanks to this quirky interaction, Kyouya gets a new job as an intern. The lady turns out to be a businesswoman who's overseeing the Platinum project at a video game corporation called SucceedSoft. He's once again determined to work hard and rebuild a career from scratch, especially since he's finally getting involved with work that has something to do with art. However, the Platinum project is suddenly frozen, and so Kyouya is laid off yet again. Poor guy starts feeling like an absolute failure as he once again lays down on his bed. The thing about darkness is that once your eyes adjust to the dark, it becomes very difficult to see the light. That's what it was like for Kyouya. He realizes that he's been living like a hamster on a wheel, while others his age have already succeeded stupendously when it comes to creating things, especially the trio of the Platinum generation. If only he had been bolder, if only he had the courage to go to an arts college over a regular one, maybe his life could have turned out better. Maybe, just maybe. As this midnight pondering reaches its boiling point, the man falls asleep, or should I say he passes out from the constant exhaustion life has put him through. In the morning, he's woken up by his little sister. The man is instantly surprised when he sees her in a school uniform, but after checking the stuff in his room and the calendar, he comes to the shocking realization that he was warped 10 years into the past. The man instantly buys Tesla stock and marks the year 2009 in his calendar so that he can buy just the right amount of Bitcoin when it launches. And nah, just kidding. Instead of doing that, Kyouya is just happy that he can relive his college years. Only this time, he'll choose an arts college from the get-go. He gets admitted to the Anaka University of Art. He moves into a share house near his university, but suddenly ends up falling asleep. When he wakes up, there's a blue-haired cutie lying right next to him. The other two residents witness them in a not-so-innocent position, and so Kyouya's college life starts off with a misunderstanding. Anyway, it looks like his housemates are all quite friendly and nice. There's Nanako, an aspiring actor, and Tsurayuki, a scriptwriter. Then there's also the cutie who fell asleep next to Kyouya. Well, she's Aki Shino. Later, they go to attend the welcoming party. Surprisingly enough, the business lady who hired him as an intern, Aiko Kawasagawa, is also a student there. They all sit and listen through a speech by Professor Misaki Kano, who basically tells them how screwed they are now that they've chosen an art school. Kyouya can feel her words, but he's excited as he realizes the trio of the Platinum generation, whom he envied as an adult, might also have been in the same hall as him. Well, lucky for him that the three who are currently living together with him turn out to be the trio of the Platinum generation who will go on to make great strides in the entertainment industry, especially Aki Shino, whose heart was something he himself genuinely loved. The man is as psyched as the rest of us. The students are all given an assignment by Professor Kano. Basically, they have to create a 3-minute short film under the subtext of time. When the four of them sit down to talk about what they'll be doing for this short film, Kyouya shares his thoughts and how he thinks the train station would be the perfect location to do their film. Everyone agrees, but Tsurayuki asks him to step out for a minute. Looks like Kyouya had the exact same idea as Tsurayuki, but he was the first one to say it out loud. It's nothing serious. Tsurayuki just felt as if someone had taken a peek inside his mind, and so he wanted to talk to his buddy about it. In the end, he tells Kyouya that it may indeed be just pure coincidence. Well, it's not like Kyouya came from the future, because that makes no sense. And so they start working on this idea. While they're amidst the process of creating the film, they're recruited by the Fine Arts Study Club. Kyouya wonders if it's really wise to join a club when they're already preoccupied with the film, but Aki and Nanako don't care enough about what he thinks. Kyouya himself goes and reviews the script with their professor. She tells him that it needs to be more audience-focused, and so he and Tsurayuki get back on the grind of further refining the script together. Finally, it's the day of shooting. But what is a film shooting without some trouble? Right when they're ready to get things moving, Aki realizes that the camera they borrowed is a standard one What they need is a video camera. Tsurayuki realizes that he's the one who screwed it up and begins to apologize. They aren't really mad at him though. In fact, Aki states that it can't be helped, but those words send Kyouya's head in a loop. The very same words are the reason he amounted to nothing in the future. It's the same excuse that can be repeated countless times, and so right then at that very moment, upon Kyouya's guidance, the crew begins to improvise and adapt to the tools that they had. That's right, instead of recording a video, they just captured still shots at the station. Kyouya then uses his editing experience to create a commendable film from those screenshots. The day finally comes and their film is screened in front of the audience. However, they couldn't win first place. The first place went to Aiko and her team. To make things more interesting, Aiko is Professor Kano's younger sister. Anyway, back to our gang. They come in third place. The frustration was real. Tsurayuki straight up yells at the top of his lungs and states that he wished that they had managed to finish the film as they envisioned it. The other two share the same sentiment. They were frustrated, but they were still quite impressed with what they had managed to produce in the end. Later, Nanako and Kyouya go to karaoke. She tells him about her singing background and also about her insecurity when it comes to singing in front of others. Though since it was just Kyouya, she asks him to listen to her songs. Nanako sings, Kyouya feels moved, but also gets the idea to sneakily record her song so that it can later be uploaded online. In the following days, the gang parties around with the Fine Arts Club to celebrate their achievement. When Kyouya and Aki were on their way back to the share house, she stops and talks about Kyouya's eyes, how they always seemed so glittery. But compared to him, she feels kind of dejected. Her eyes just don't have the same shine. She wonders if she should quit art, but Kyouya instantly recalls her art, how it inspired him in the future, and so he just tells it as it is. He tells her that she can't stop being an artist. He loves her art. And so hearing him say that, Aki also states that she'll do her best. Then next up, we have the much anticipated beach episode. This is where you realize just how much this anime is carried by the waifus. What happens is that the gang goes to a beach for their summer break assignment. The idea is to film a movie there, together with Aiko as well as the Fine Arts Club. It definitely gets quite hot out there. Even our dense MC isn't immune to the overwhelming impact of a beach episode. Anyway, once the film is taken care of and Kyouya is working on one of his many part-time jobs together with Aiko, he encounters an interesting individual named Keiko. She looks like a kid but is actually their senior. Plus, she's also the leader of a prominent doujin circle named Hallucigenia Soft. Once again, the films are screened, but this time, the gang dominates the competition. They're awarded first place, but even though Nanako previously talked about how she'll sway the scene with her acting prowess, the professor quite explicitly states that the reason they came in first was not because of her. Rather, it's because of the overall approach and the technical aspects of the film. Later, the gang and the Fine Arts Club once again celebrate, this time at the karaoke club. Now, even though Nanako still hadn't fully recovered from this comment, Aiko still persists in asking her to sing. When Nanako wavers, Aiko goes on the offensive and starts criticizing her lukewarm approach when it comes to acting. She's absolutely thorough with her words. Nanako is deeply hurt and finally, she walks out. Obviously, Aiko starts feeling bad and she talks to Kyouya about it as they discuss how she can reconcile with Nanako. Later, while Kyoya's in the Fine Arts Club room, that senior from before named Keiko strolls into the room and tries to recruit Kyouya for her gaming corporation. Kyouya thinks about it for a minute, but then decides his current life with the gang is more important. That same night, while Nanako is inside her room, still dejected, Kyouya plays that recording of her song. It was well edited, and so Kyouya declares that this is the potential her voice has. Nanako starts feeling a little bit more courageous. Then comes the festival. The gang goes with Maid Cafe as their theme, because, of course, the Fine Arts Club also does the same thing together with them. A couple of days go by, and Kyouya finally gets some time to walk around the festival together with Aki. They stroll around, eat stuff, do activities, and then visit an art exhibit. Aki's looking at a painting with great interest. Kyouya also takes a look, but he falls asleep the moment he sees the artist's name. When he wakes up, he finds himself in Aki's lap. The atmosphere is perfect for a kiss, and the two almost do it, but are interrupted by an annoying call. It's Tsurayuki, and he tells Kyouya that they need a replacement singer as the secret guest for the concert because the appointed one can no longer make it. As trouble enters the chat, Kyouya goes and asks Nanako to take up the role. She's, of course, still not over her fear of singing on stage. Though Kyouya shows her his laptop, he uploaded her song yesterday, and yet it already had more than 10,000 views. everyone was praising her. Seeing how she had already sung in front of those tens of thousands of people, Nanako no longer felt scared of singing in front of a few hundred. At least, not as much as before. The concert commences, she anticipates the moment, but once the beat starts rolling in, Nanako practically obliterates the audience, especially the Haruhi Suzumiya fandom with her beautiful voice and refined tune. She does it all while dressed as a maid. And for the song she sang, it was God Knows from Haruhi Suzumiya. And I'm telling you guys, the nostalgia slap was very real. Another interesting thing I should mention is how it was the year 2006 at this point in the story. And well, the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya anime also aired in 2006. This episode was well executed on so many levels, definitely a job well done. Anyway, back to the plot. When the concert ends, Aki and Kyouya resume where they left off. That's right, they kiss. Unfortunately, Nanako, who also had started developing some feelings for Kyouya, just so happened to see the kiss. She feels sad, but doesn't let her feelings get in Aki and Kyouya's way. Alright, now that the troubles of both Aki and Nanako have been resolved, it's time for Tsuruyuki. Looks like he's been skipping classes for quite a few days. He spends most of his time working endlessly on part-time jobs. The situation wasn't looking good. Naturally, Kyouya, Aki, and Nanako are worried about him. Then, unfortunately, the exhaustion begins to overwhelm him, and Tsuruyuki collapses. He wakes up in a doctor's clinic and then shares his backstory with Kyouya. He comes from a family of doctors. He was supposed to follow the same path, but since what he actually wanted was a career in scriptwriting, he bailed from his home. Right now, he's stuck taking care of all the expenses by himself. Hearing this, Kyouya has nothing but empathy for his buddy. They later hold another house meeting, and this time, he reveals how they should make a doujin game, which they can then sell through Keiko's circle. When they're done, they can use the profits to help Tsuruyuki with his expenses. However, this was a massive commitment that they'd be dedicating the majority of their time and effort to this project, which is why their performance in class will definitely deteriorate. But even so, they had each other's back. The game creation project begins, but before it could amount to anything, they receive a visitor accompanied by a bulked-up bodyguard. Her name is Sayuri. She greets Tsuruyuki with a smooch and then reveals herself as his fiancée. On the surface, she's beautiful, nice, friendly, and someone who also treats everyone to a hot pot. But then she complicates the situation by telling Tsuruyuki to come back home with her, become a doctor, and then her husband. Tsuruyuki knew this was coming. He didn't comply at the moment, and everyone keeps working on the game. Though the schedule is really tough. The further along they are in the process, the tougher it is to advance further. Since it's the winter break, they go all out. But when the break's over, it's back to the grueling grind. Aiko sees what's going on and criticizes Kyouya's demanding leadership because at this rate, they all may burn out before the completion of the project. So the next time they're all exhausted, he tells everyone to rest a little. Unfortunately, it backfires, since they're now even further behind schedule. Sayuri was also making visits to the share house every now and then, but after a conversation with Tsuruyuki and Kyouya, where Tsuruyuki tells her that he's not going back and Kyouya backs him by telling Sayuri to respect his choice, she goes back home. Just like that, there's only 1 month before the game's launch date, and as you can expect, they're way behind schedule. Unfortunately, this causes Kyouya to make some major changes to the game. In doing so, he upsets Kyouya because he significantly altered the original script, and even Aki's artwork suffers a concession. On the promised day, there's only a few hours left before the big moment when the game finally launches. Kyouya is still on the grind trying to fix all the countless bugs that have randomly showed up all over the game. He once again didn't sleep, but thankfully, they made it. The game called Haru Sora is released on time and is a genuine success. Everyone celebrates, but they all know that the process left a lot to be desired since plenty of things were compromised, especially Tsuruyuki, who just couldn't see himself as a successful scriptwriter anymore. His scripts were compromised many times, and it's pretty clear that all their success is thanks to Kyouya and not him. The man expresses his thoughts to Kyouya and then states that it's better for him to just drop out. Naturally, this has just as much of an impact on Kyouya as it did Tsuruyuki. Our protagonist was overwhelmed. He realized that it was his involvement that led to Tsuruyuki changing his path because otherwise, Tsuruyuki was going to end up as one of the esteemed Platinum Generation members. It rains as he indulges in this depression. Strangely enough, he comes across Keiko before going to sleep. By this point, it was the year 2007. However, when he wakes up, he's greeted by a little girl whose name is Maki Hashiba. That's right, it's his daughter. It's the year 2018, and our boy now has a daughter with Aki. He's obviously confused, but it's quite wholesome to see him all confused around his new family. After some deep extrospection, he realizes that he's living in Noborito with his wife and daughter. He works for a prestigious game corporation and earns a handsome salary. Furthermore, one of his colleagues is Aiko. When he goes to work, he's greeted by a woman named Miki, who then takes him to Aiko. Unlike the previous future where he worked under Aiko, this time they're both more like equals. She asks him to check up on their illustrator for their current project. Her name is Minori, and for a variety of reasons, the progress of the project has been quite complacent. When he visits the illustrator, she tells him about her creativity block, but Kyouya does a good job of inspiring her by showing her own collection of works. Still, since it's about illustrating, he naturally thinks about his wife. Once he's back at home, he learns a shocking fact, that Aki stopped illustrating years ago. It doesn't end there. In the following days, he also realizes that once Nanako failed to succeed as a virtual idol, she quit singing. And as for Tsuruyuki, he never wrote another script after dropping out. That's right, folks, thanks to Kyouya's involvement in the past, none of the members who would have made the Platinum Generation are even in those careers at this point in time. His concern is further clarified by Aki when she tries to comfort him but ends up stating how she just stopped having fun with illustrating. This is where it became abundantly clear that the root of the problem is the game they made. The grueling schedule and the compromises made them leave their aspirations. And now the situation with this game company parallels what happened back then. Even after 1 month passes by, not a lot of progress has been made. The illustrator continues to struggle. She's really cute though, so I guess we can let this one slide. As for the other components of the game, pretty much everything is half-baked. To make matters worse, the president is a clown who refuses to listen to Aiko and Kyouya when they vividly tell him that it's not possible to release the game in the intended release date. He just tells them to make it work somehow. Unfortunately, the game, named Mystic Clockwork, was released despite numerous issues. As expected, everyone slanders the living daylights out of it. They are furious at the lack of Minori's illustrations, the countless bugs, inconsistencies, and other intolerable stuff. This results in these servers going down for maintenance. Aiko goes up to the president and calls him a clown. I'm just kidding. She scolds him as any confident employee would. Meanwhile, Kyouya is overjoyed when he realizes that Nanako just uploaded a new song, even though she had supposedly retired. This gives our boy all the inspiration he needed to keep moving forward and set things right. He also walks up to the president and shares his plan to make amends. First, he'll switch the game's engine with the one from another reputable company that he of course purchased with the budget. The players who had to go through that horrible mess of a game are served an apology. As for the team, he asks the president to give them 2 days off. Otherwise, this mess will stay a mess. The president was reluctant, but since he didn't want to screw up as badly as before, he lets Kyouya be the man of the company. Kyouya himself starts by visiting Minori again. This time, she shows her artwork from the game they produced back in college. The illustrator starts feeling the creative beats again and gets to work. Slowly but surely, everything else is in motion as well. Except for Aiko. She seems to be leaving for Okinawa. Kyouya wonders if she's quitting the company, and so he rushes to the airport. Much to his dismay, she starts criticizing him for lacking confidence despite everything he's capable of. Though in the heat of the moment, Aiko also ends up expressing her true feelings for him. Sadly for her, Kyouya was now a married man. Anyway, she leaves for Okinawa, but promises that she'll return soon after a quick break. Kyouya just takes a moment to breathe and realizes how much things changed because of him. He wonders if it's possible for him to go back one more time. That's when a familiar face appears before him. It's Keiko, and she looks the same as she did 11 years ago. She didn't even need to say much. Kyouya instantly deduced that the one behind the time travel was her. He tells her that he needs to go back again. She asks if he's sure about that. He may not be able to have the same happiness he's created for himself, a career, his wife, his daughter. He may not be as happy as he is right now. Is he really ready to cast aside this dream life? But Kyouya states that he doesn't want it to be at the expense of his friends. If possible, he'd rather face the challenges with all of them. Hearing this, Keiko is ready to wrap him back to the past, but he stops her right then. He still hasn't said goodbye to his family. When he returns back home, his daughter runs up to him and shows him her mother's drawing. As it turns out, she just felt like drawing after checking out the Mystic Clock game, and more importantly, after she saw Maki draw something. This makes the guy emotional, and he instantly hugs them both. That night, Aki tells him that she's happy as things are. There's Maki, there's him, it's a wonderful life. Though she did feel quite nostalgic when she drew today. After breakfast, he's ready to leave. Both Aki and Maki say goodbye, but seeing how this may be the last, he hugs them both real tight. Kyouya then meets up with Keiko, but before he's wrapped, she also helps him realize that his actions aren't the only reason their paths changed. Just look at Aki. She's happy with the way things turned out. Then there's Minori. She's also another artist that he helped through his actions. As long as he doesn't self-indulge or destroy the blockchain economy by buying unhealthy amounts of Bitcoin, he can live without regrets. Just like that, Kyouya wakes up in the past. Tsuruyuki has already dropped out. However, he doesn't try to go after him or change his decision. Time begins to pass by. Nanako seems to be overly dependent on him, but he makes sure to always prioritize her independence, while Aki doesn't feel like drawing at all. Then one day, Kyouya is off to the campus. A clumsy girl bumps into him. She has a copy of their game, Harusora, with her. It doesn't take long before Kyouya realizes that she's the illustrator, Minori. Of course, since she's now his junior, he starts helping her out. From the looks of it, things may eventually end up as they did in the future, but what Kyouya meant was the desire to experience it all, to not have any regrets. But then, the ending leaves us with a massive cliffhanger when Kyouya accidentally comes across Tsuruyuki right in front of a theater. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.